The hum of the central air conditioning was the only sound in the large, dark master bedroom. It was a constant, low thrum that usually lulled me to sleep, but tonight it felt like the buzzing of a trapped insect inside my skull. My wife, Helen, breathed softly and evenly beside me, a testament to the deep, untroubled sleep of someone who had given the day her all and had no regrets to haunt the witching hour. I, Mark, on the other hand, was tangled in the usual sheets of my own anxieties. Spreadsheets from work bled into worries about the mortgage, which morphed into a vague, nagging guilt about the state of the lawn and the fact that I'd promised my son, Noah, we'd build the treehouse 2 summers ago. I was 47 years old. The life I'd built was, by all external accounts, a solid, respectable one. A 4-bedroom house in a good suburban neighborhood, 2 cars in the driveway, a career in mid-level management that paid the bills and then some. But in the quiet darkness, the structure felt fragile, like a stage set. I was playing the part of Mark, the provider, the husband, the father, but the script felt increasingly hollow. The dialogues with Helen had become functional, about schedules and chores. The interactions with Noah, our 15-year-old, were a minefield of monosyllabic answers and the distant glow of a smartphone screen. I checked the clock on my nightstand, 2:17 a.m. The witching hour, indeed. This was when all the compromises and quiet resignations of the day came to whisper in my ear. I was just about to turn over for the 100th time, to try and smother the thoughts with a pillow, when I heard it. A soft creak on the landing. My body went still, every sense on high alert. Helen didn't stir. The creak was followed by the faintest shuffle of bare feet on the hallway carpet. It was coming closer. My first, irrational thought was of an intruder, a flash of panic that tightened my chest. But then the footsteps stopped right outside our door. There was a long, hesitant pause. I could almost feel the presence on the other side of the wood, a palpable uncertainty. Then, the doorknob turned, so slowly it was almost silent. The door cracked open, letting in a sliver of dim yellow light from the nightlight in the hall. A silhouette stood there, small and slight in the frame. It was Noah. My initial fear melted into a different kind of tension. Noah hadn't come to our room in the middle of the night since he was 7 and had a bad dream about a tornado. For years now, his bedroom had been his fortress, a domain of video game sounds and muted conversations with friends on a headset, a place we entered only after a perfunctory knock and a waiting for a grunt of acknowledgement. Dad. His voice was a thin, reedy thing in the vast darkness, barely a whisper. Helen mumbled something in her sleep and rolled over. I pushed myself up on my elbows, my heart doing a strange, clumsy rhythm against my ribs. Noah, buddy, what's wrong? Are you sick? He didn't answer. He just stood there, a shadowy statue. I could see the outline of his pajama pants and his tousled hair. Come in, son. What is it? I said, my voice low and gravelly with sleep and sudden concern. He padded into the room, closing the door behind him with a soft click, plunging us back into near darkness. He didn't come to my side of the bed. Instead, he went over to the large armchair in the corner of the room, the one Helen used for reading, and curled up in it, pulling his knees to his chest. My eyes had adjusted enough to see the pale oval of his face. I can't sleep, he said, but it was more than that. His voice carried a weight that simple insomnia couldn't account for. It was heavy, saturated with something I couldn't immediately name. Okay, I said, swinging my legs out of bed. The hardwood floor was cool against my feet. Do you want some warm milk? Or I could find those melatonin gummies your mom bought. It's not that, he interrupted, his voice a little stronger, a little more desperate. I need to talk to you. Those words, I need to talk to you, sent a jolt through my system. They were so formal, so adult, and so utterly foreign coming from my teenage son. This wasn't about a broken video game controller or needing money for a movie. This was something else. Okay, buddy, I said, my own voice softening. I walked over and sat on the ottoman facing his chair. We were just 2 shapes in the dark, father and son, a few feet apart, but in that moment, the distance felt oceanic. I'm listening. You can talk to me about anything. You know that, right? He was silent for another long moment, and I could hear him taking a shaky breath. I resisted the urge to fill the silence with platitudes, with a fatherly, it's going to be okay. Somehow, I knew that wasn't what he needed. Dad, he began, then stopped. When he spoke again, his words came out in a rushed, pained whisper, as if he were confessing a terrible crime. Do you ever feel like you're just pretending? Like you're wearing a mask all the time, and you're so scared that someone is going to see behind it and realize you're not who they think you are. The question hung in the air between us, so profound and unexpected that it stole my breath. It was as if he had reached inside my own head, into the very thoughts that had been plaguing me just minutes before, and given them a voice. My own son. I was so stunned I couldn't speak. My mind, usually so quick with managerial solutions and practical advice, went completely blank. This wasn't a problem I could fix with a tool or a phone call. He took my silence as a cue to continue, the words now tumbling out in a torrent he could no longer contain. At school, he said, his voice trembling, I feel like I'm in a play. I have to be the right kind of guy. I have to laugh at the right jokes, even when they're not funny. I have to act like I care about the game on Friday, and who's dating who, and what stupid thing someone posted online. I have to pretend I'm not scared. I have to pretend that I know what I'm doing, that I know what I want to be, that I'm sure of myself. He paused, swallowing hard. And with my friends, it's the same. It's like we're all just performing for each other. Nobody's real. And if I tried to be real, if I said what I actually think or feel, they'd just stare at me like I'm an alien. So I keep the mask on. All day, every day, and by the time I get home, my face hurts from pretending. Tears were streaming down his face now, glistening in the faint light. I could see them tracing silver paths down his cheeks. My own eyes stung in response. My boy, my strong, smart, funny boy, who I thought was navigating the turbulent waters of high school with the same clumsy but successful grace I once had, was drowning. And then I come home, he whispered, the pain in his voice sharpening, and I feel like I have to put on a different mask for you and Mom. That one felt like a physical blow. It landed right in the center of my chest. For us, Noah, you don't have to pretend with us. This is your home, we're your parents. The words felt weak, inadequate, even as I said them. He shook his head, a frantic, jerky motion. But I do, Dad. Don't you see? You ask me how school was, and I say, fine. It's never fine. You ask me if I've thought about colleges, and I just shrug because the thought of picking one thing for the rest of my life makes me want to throw up. You and Mom, you have it all figured out. You have your jobs, this house, your life, it's all so settled. And I look at you, and I think, that's what I'm supposed to be working towards. That's the finish line, and it terrifies me. He was sobbing quietly now, his shoulders shaking. I'm so tired, Dad. I'm so tired of wearing all these masks. I'm scared I'm going to forget what my real face looks like. I'm scared that there's nothing underneath anymore. The raw, unfiltered honesty of his confession shattered the image I had of him, of our life, of myself. I had been so blind. I saw his quietness as moody teenage angst. I saw his reluctance to engage as laziness. I saw his retreat into his room as a normal desire for independence. I never saw it for what it was, a profound and lonely struggle with identity and fear. And his perception of me, that I had it all figured out, that my life was settled, was the greatest irony of all. He saw the stage set I had built, and he believed it was real. He didn't see the man behind the curtain, desperately pulling levers and hoping the whole thing didn't come crashing down. In that moment, sitting in the dark with my weeping son, the carefully constructed persona of Mark, the man who had it all under control, evaporated. The corporate titles, the car payment, the perfectly manicured lawn, none of it mattered. The only thing that was real, the only thing that had ever been truly real, was this. This connection, this boy. I got up from the ottoman and went to him. I didn't try to hug him, knowing that at 15, such gestures could feel suffocating. Instead, I knelt down on the floor in front of his chair, so we were at eye level. I put my hands on his knees, and I looked right at him, at his tear-streaked, terrified face. Noah, I said, and my voice was thick with an emotion I hadn't felt in years. Look at me. He lifted his head, his eyes wide and swimming with pain. First, I said, thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me this. For taking the mask off with me. That is the bravest thing I have ever seen anyone do. He blinked, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. And second, I continued, my own composure starting to crack, you could not be more wrong about me. About me having it all figured out. I took a deep, shuddering breath. It was my turn to be nakedly honest. Son, I feel like I'm pretending every single day of my life. Now it was his turn to look stunned. I go to a job that, most days, feels utterly meaningless. I sit in meetings where we talk in circles about things that don't matter, and I nod and say the right things, and I wear my competent manager mask. I worry constantly, about money, about losing my job, about whether this house is a trap, about whether I've been a good enough husband, a good enough father. I look at you and your mom, and I feel this immense pressure to keep this whole show running smoothly. To be the rock. I could feel hot tears welling in my own eyes now. The truth is, Noah, I have no idea what I'm doing most of the time. I'm just making it up as I go along. I'm terrified, too. I'm terrified of failing you. I'm terrified of getting to the end of my life and realizing I was so busy playing a part that I missed the whole point. The confession was like lancing a boil. A lifetime of suppressed anxiety and doubt poured out into the space between us. I was crying openly now, too, the two of us, a father and son, weeping together in the dark for the shared, secret burden of being a man. I thought you were so sure of everything, Noah whispered, his voice full of awe and confusion. I know you did, I said, wiping my face with the back of my hand. And that's my fault. I thought that's what I was supposed to be. The sure one. The one with the answers. I never wanted you to see me as weak or uncertain. But in trying to be strong for you, I think I built a wall between us. I am so sorry, Noah. He uncurled from the chair then, and to my surprise, he leaned forward and wrapped his arms around my neck. It was a clumsy, desperate hug, but it was the most genuine connection I had felt with another human being in a decade. I held him tight, my son, feeling the sharp angles of his shoulders, no longer a boy, not yet a man, but a person, a beautiful, complex, and hurting person. We sat like that for a long time, until our tears subsided and the room was quiet again, save for our ragged breathing and Helen's soft, oblivious snores. So what do we do? Noah asked finally, his voice muffled against my shoulder. If we're both just pretending, what's the point? I pulled back, holding him by the shoulders. We stop pretending. With each other. Right here, right now. That's the point. The point is that we don't have to do this alone. We can be real with each other. We can take the masks off in this house. This can be the one place where we don't have to perform. A tiny, tentative smile touched his lips. Really, I said, with a conviction I hadn't felt in years. No more. Fine. If school was terrible, you can say it was terrible. If you're scared, you can tell me you're scared. And I promise, I will do the same. I'll tell you when I'm having a crap day at work. I'll tell you when I'm worried about things. We'll be a team, not a father and son who perform for each other, but a team. The change in his face was immediate. The tension, the fear, the weight, it didn't vanish, but it seemed to lessen, as if he had set down a burden he'd been carrying for far too long. The relief was palpable. We talked for another hour, there on the floor in the dark. He told me about the specific kids at school who made him feel insecure. He confessed he had no passion for sports like I did, and felt he was letting me down. He admitted he loved drawing and writing stories but was embarrassed by it, thinking it wasn't a manly pursuit. I told him about my own failures in high school, about the girl who broke my heart, about my first, terrifying year in the workforce when I was convinced I'd be fired every single day. We weren't a father dispensing wisdom to a son. We were just two people, sharing their stories, acknowledging their fears, and finding, to their immense relief, that they were not alone. Eventually, exhaustion took over. The digital clock read 4:03 a.m. You should try to get some sleep, buddy, I said, my voice hoarse. Yeah, he nodded, getting to his feet. He looked younger, softer, than he had when he walked in. As he reached the door, he turned back. Dad, yeah, Noah, thanks for not freaking out. Thank you for trusting me, I said. Now get to bed. We'll talk more tomorrow. All the time, from now on. He gave me a small, genuine smile, the first one I'd seen in months that wasn't tinged with irony or sarcasm, and slipped out, closing the door softly behind him. I didn't go back to bed. I went to the window and pulled back the curtain. The neighborhood was still and silent, bathed in the cool blue light of pre-dawn. The world outside hadn't changed. The spreadsheets were still waiting on my laptop. The mortgage was still due. The treehouse was still unbuilt. But everything had changed. The foundation of my life had shifted from the brittle stage set of perceived success to the solid, messy, beautiful ground of authentic connection. My son, in his moment of profound courage and despair, had not only saved himself but had saved me, too. He had handed me the key to my own prison. The next morning, Helen noticed the change immediately. Over coffee, she looked from my tired but peaceful face to nose, which was no longer hidden behind a curtain of hair or a screen. You two are quiet this morning, she remarked. Everything okay? Noah and I exchanged a look, a quick, silent communication that contained a universe of new understanding. "Yeah, Mom," Noah said, taking a sip of orange juice. "Everything's good." And for the first time in a very, very long time, it was the truth. The days and weeks that followed were a journey of reinvention. It wasn't always easy. Old habits die hard. There were moments when I'd slip back into my lecturing dad voice, and Noah would give me a look, a simple raised eyebrow, and I'd catch myself. "Sorry," I'd say. "Let me rephrase that." And I would, speaking to him as I would to a friend, with respect and a genuine desire to understand. I started leaving work on time, no longer feeling the need to prove my dedication by being the last one in the office. I came home and, instead of collapsing in front of the TV, I asked Noah about his day. And when he said, "It was actually pretty hard, I had a panic attack before my history test," I didn't try to solve it. I just listened. I told him, "That sounds awful. I'm sorry you went through that. Want to talk about it?" We started building the treehouse that weekend. It was a clumsy, comical affair. We were both terrible carpenters. We measured boards wrong, hit our thumbs with hammers, and argued about the best way to attach the roof. But we were laughing. Real, belly-deep laughs. We were creating something together, not because it was on a checklist of good father-son activities, but because we both wanted to. Helen, initially confused by our sudden, intense alliance, soon embraced it. The energy in the house shifted from one of polite coexistence to one of vibrant, sometimes noisy, engagement. We started having family game nights again. We started talking about real things at the dinner table, our fears, our dreams, our stupid mistakes. One evening, about a month after the night, as we had come to call it, Noah came into the living room where I was reading. He didn't say anything, just handed me a sketchbook. I opened it. It was filled with the most incredible, detailed drawings. Fantasy landscapes, intricate character designs, storyboards for a comic book. The talent was breathtaking. "This is what's underneath my mask, Dad," he said softly. I looked up at him, my eyes filling with tears of pride. "It's beautiful, son, absolutely beautiful." My son came to my room that night, burdened by the weight of 1,000 expectations, teetering on the edge of a silent crisis. He thought he was broken. He thought he was the only one who felt lost. What he said didn't just change our relationship, it changed the entire trajectory of our lives. It pulled us back from the brink of becoming strangers who shared a last name and a roof. He taught me that the greatest gift we can give our children is not a perfect life, but an honest one. It's the permission to be flawed, to be scared, to be uncertain. It's the courage to take off our own masks first, to show them our real faces, so they feel safe enough to show us theirs. The world will always demand a performance. It will always hand you a mask. But your home, your family, that should be the one dressing room where you can finally, take it all off and just breathe. That night, my son didn't just ask me a question. He offered me my freedom. And in doing so, I was finally able to give him his.